Hello, Inklings. Welcome to my channel. In this episode, we're going to be wrapping up the Screwtape letters, and I will be introducing you our next book by C.S. Lewis. All right. So a little bit of a recap. Screwtape's Letters was the book composed of 11 letters between two demons regarding the work of tempting a soul away from God's love and light into eternal damnation. Now, this is the book, okay? I am not trying to convert anyone. Just reminding you, okay? Alrighty then. So we left off with the introduction, the preface, to where it introduced the book, and C.S. Lewis kind of hinted at it. Is the book real, or is it a figment of his imagination? A way that he came to terms with the great questions of elevating ourselves to higher consciousness, to be the best that we can be. And so in this book, it's quite interesting that the demons use everyday things, everyday distractions, to distract this person known as the patient from the higher truth, from a higher sense of learning, of coming to terms that the world is an amazing place full of everyday miracles, no matter how inconsequential or how everyday it might seem. And also this book is filled with warnings about keeping our brain inside the box. Never think inside the box is one of the many running themes of this book. So I believe we got through the preface, like I said, and we were kind of introducing chapter 1 a little bit. Now remember, I'm not going to read the book in its entirety because, let's face it, that would take way too long. And I'm trying to keep my minutes under 45 minutes if I can, because I don't want to bore y'all too much, and I want y'all to read this book. These channels are more to introduce the books to everyone, and I want to kind of stir that thirst and that hunger so y'all can dive into the pages and get into it yourself. So the first couple chapters are about how to use everyday distractions to prevent the patient, as this human is referred to constantly throughout the entire series of letters, to distract him so he does not let higher elevated thinking enter his brain. Wormwood and Screwtape continuously talk about how use everyday things like your hunger, what time of day it is, the physical appearances of people in your church. He even uses church examples of, that person can't really be a Christian. They're dressed in everyday clothes, or their shoes squeak, or they sing off key. They use petty grievances and petty annoyances to isolate us. Because, again, according to this book, that's what they want. They want us isolated and yet muddled with everyone. They want all signs of individuality and uniqueness obliterated. They do not want us to be our own person. Yet, they want us to isolate ourselves. That is a big thing that this book discusses. And he uses examples of when he becomes a Christian and they discuss the relationship he has with his mother. Everybody has parents that they don't always get along with. And Screwtape tells Wormwood, use the arguments between his mother to interrupt prayer for what prayer truly is. According to C.S. Lewis, prayer is, yes, it's a way to communicate with God or higher power or your own consciousness, whatever your belief systems may be. For all intents and purposes, we're going to use the term prayer as reference to the Christian God. Okay, just for the intents and purposes of this book. Prayer is to open up a part of ourselves to God, to where we commune with Him, where we can take His energy, use it for ourselves to make ourselves better, and to soothe ourselves in a way. But in this book, in the Screwtape letters, Screwtape encourages Wormwood, don't let the patient use prayer that way. Let him use prayer as a way to exalt himself. Let him use prayer as a way to focus on petty annoyances and grievances between him and his mother. Which, again, is not the point of prayer, according to C.S. Lewis and the roundabout teachings of this book. Prayer is a way to commune to God. Yes, it's to help us air our grievances, but it's not a way to focus on them. Then there's even a mention of, now, no children watching this channel because it does talk about sex. Not in graphic terms or anything like that, but it does refer to sexual practices as a way, again, not a entire way to tempt us, but just another way to distract us. Because, according to C.S. Lewis's book and how he is viewing things in this narrative work, sex is not meant to be something you glutton on yourself. Yes, sex is enjoyable. Yes, sex is healthy. But don't use it as an all-you-can-eat buffet kind of thing. And Screwtape tells him to, let him use sex however he wants and keep that guilt or keep that, maybe I should, temper my appetite, so to speak. Keep him confused, keep him focused on the here and the now. And as the book continues on, they even refer to the war. Because remember, this book was written in 1942. So during this time period, Great Britain was hip deep in Blitzkrieg. They were getting bombed. They were becoming very active in World War II. So the patient is feeding off these fears. And Wormwood and Screwtape are trying to find ways to get him distracted by this. But what I find interesting is that Screwtape doesn't care about the war itself. They don't see the war as anything more than a tool. Like in chapter 5, it is a little bit disappointing to expect a detailed report on your work and to receive instead such a vague rhapsody as your last letter. You say you are delirious with joy because European humans have started another of their wars. They don't care that we kill each other. They look at it as a way to feed into our despair, on another way to isolate us and yet keep us confused with the masses. That's all they view war as. And what I find interesting is that Wormwood and Screwtape warns Wormwood, don't let him focus on the war, because if you allow your patient to focus on the war and his own inevitable mortality, it's going to lead him even closer to God in their world. So what I find interesting is how they don't care that we kill each other. They really don't. That ends the game too soon for them. They want us to focus on our hatred. And this is a lesson that we can use even today, especially today. They, be it negative thoughts, negative energies, demons, in this case we're discussing demons, they want us isolated. They want us to hate each other. They do not want us to be united. God wants us united, yet individual. He wants us to, yes, be our own person, be our own individual being, but he wants us in community with each other. These demons, according to the book, according to the Screwtape letters, they want us mixed together like a stew, but yet full of hatred, full of despair, full of things that keep us in isolation and darkness. And these next few chapters, we're about halfway. We're a little over halfway now. These next chapters, I love this part. The next chapters, as you get closer to the end of the book, you can literally feel the psychological suspense building, because I'm not going to tell you the end, okay, because that's not fair to anybody. But I will tell you this. There's a point in the book where you think this human's done for. There's no way. Like, he's falling down this rabbit hole. He's falling for their tricks. And that is going to get you thinking, this could be me. Am I following down this rabbit hole? What similarities am I seeing in his patterns of behavior as I am also showing? Now, again, I'm not trying to convert anyone. This is merely food for thought. The 7th chapter, they even bring up, should he know he's being tempted? Should he know about the afterlife? Should he know what is out there? Our policy for the moment is to conceal ourselves. That's literally what Screwtape tells it. They are ordered. They are not allowed to tell them, yeah, we're real. Okay? When the humans disbelieve in our existence, we lose all the pleasing results of direct terrorism, and we make no magicians. Not saying all magicians are demonic. That is what Screwtape is saying, okay? On the other hand, when they believe in us, we cannot make them materialists and skeptics. So they themselves have their own rules, where you have to tempt them, you have to give them just enough evidence of your existence, but not too much, because we don't want them to believe. Because remember what C.S. Lewis stated in the very beginning. The danger of is either not believing or believing to the point you're obsessed. And that is the trick here, that they have to keep us confused. Remember, they want us confused. They want that wool over our eyes so we are not alert and in tune with everything around us. Screwtape continues, I have great hopes that we shall learn in due time how to emotionalize and mythologize their science to such an extent that what is in effect a belief in us will creep in while the human mind remains close to belief in the enemy. So what they want eventually is to corrupt our mind, to take away our reason for dogmatic belief. Which I find ironic, because a lot of people accuse Christianity of that very thing. When he just says here, they want dogma. Because what do they want? They want us isolated. They don't want us in community. That's a trick. That is a very important trick. So beware, my friends. They want us to stay in that box. They want to stay in a box where our minds are closed, our senses are closed. To where we hate and fear each other to the point where even though we're sheep in a flock, we don't know that we're in the flock. We don't know we're lost. That's what I get from this book. Okay? The life force worship of sex and some aspects of psychoanalysis may here prove useful. They want us befuddled. They want us to dive too deep in things that are not concrete. To where you can say, well, according to my beliefs, this is wrong, but you don't believe that, so you can do what you want. That's what they're looking for here, okay? This book is just so deep. This part is really getting into a lot of psychological suspense, and it is also, C.S. Lewis is also bringing in a lot more, not so much theological, but I call it spiritual philosophy. And the reason I say that is he does not directly quote Catholicism. He does not directly quote the Anglican Church. And he does not use them to really influence his book. He uses our individual relationships with God through his views, his opinions, how he interprets his relationship with God. This is the part of the book where it really gets deep. The first half of the book is more kind of laying the groundwork. Now this is the part where we see more of the house itself being built, or the maze, however you want to look at it. It's interesting. They even talk about religious faith dying away. Well, that doesn't mean anything. We all have days where we doubt, all days where we disbelieve. And what I find interesting is in chapter 8, so you have great hopes that the patient's religious faith is dying away, have you? I always thought the training college had gone to pieces since they put old Slubgob, that's another demon, at the head of it. Now I am sure. Has no one ever told you about the law of undulation? Okay. So this part is where he discusses spiritual philosophy, the law of undulation. As spirits, they belong to the eternal world. But as animals, they inhabit time. So inside ourselves, we have a soul that is eternal. It cannot die. Be it energy, be it reincarnation, life force, whatever, Our souls are eternal. But our bodies belong to this present time. Like this body here, this beautiful body you see in front of you, is going to wither and die. It's already been on the process. But my soul will not. My soul is going to continue on. Be it as an orb, be it as a reincarnation, be it as an ethereal mist circulating the atmosphere, whatever. That is one thing that they are very firm on. This means that while their spirit can be directed to an eternal object, their bodies, passions, and imaginations are in continual change, for to be in time means to change. So that means It's like going up and down. You know, you're going to have your highs and your lows. Life is not stagnant. It is always movement. The nearest approach to constancy, therefore, is undulation, the repeated return to a level from which they repeatedly fall back, a series of troughs and peaks. Interesting. Demons themselves acknowledge that life is not stagnant. Life is full of highs and lows. Pain and pleasure, passion and apathy. It's all there. They acknowledge it. If you'd watch your patient carefully, you would have seen this undulation in every department of his life. Interest, work, affection amongst family members, loved ones. They don't want us to see that. They want us to see is this moment is permanent when time is not. This moment, no matter, and friends, this is me speaking to you from my heart. Whatever you're going through right now is not going to last forever, no matter how painful, no matter how wonderful it is. The sun will set, the sun will rise again, and it will be a brand new day. Don't get stuck in that trough. Don't get stuck in the valley. Don't worry. The peak is coming soon. A new dawn will bring you to a new mountain peak and new experiences. Just remember that, okay? That's also another underlying theme in this book that he wants you to remember. Nothing is stagnant. Nothing. Nothing is static. Nothing is the same. As long as he lives on earth, periods of emotional and bodily richness and liveliness will alternate with numbness and poverty. To decide what best use of it is, you must ask what use the enemy wants to make of it and then do the opposite. They want us away. They want us isolated. They don't want us to experience those peaks. They don't even want us to experience the valleys. If as you read this book, you're going to want to see God gives us this so we can experience everything fully. Be it our enemy, be it depression, be it demonic forces, bad spirits, bad luck, whatever. It wants us this. Because if you only experience a flat plateau, you're stuck. You're never going to awaken to that beautiful mountain peak or the deep sorrow of a valley. That's what this chapter really dives into, is to keep him numb. Don't let him experience things. Do opposite, but not too much of an opposite to where he realizes he's being directly affected. That's why I love this book. And what I find interesting is they do refer to God on how he works and what he wants with us. And I just find it interesting. This is one of my favorite quotes of this whole book. Screwtape is writing to Wormwood. You must wonder why God doesn't just command them to love him. Why he doesn't just show up and answer all the prayers and show them his phenomenal power, and that is it. We would be done for if he did that. But I love it. He cannot ravish. He can only woo. That's God. He cannot ravish. He can only woo. He cannot take us against our will. He has to show us. He has to... Wooing was an old method of courtship to where a man would show his tender side to the woman that he loved. Sending her flowers, letters, poetry even. Boys, y'all need to start sending poetry again. That works. Anyway, PSA. Send poetry and flowers, y'all. It don't have to be your own poetry. You can borrow some. Okay. PSA over. You're welcome, guys. Thank me in the comments, okay? Your wives will definitely thank me. Anyway, he can only woo us. His ignoble idea is to eat the cake and have it. The creatures are to be one with him, but yet themselves merely to cancel them or assimilate them will not serve. God wants us to pursue him on our own. He wants to win over our love on our own. They don't want that. Be it evil forces, mental health. They don't want us to feel that. They want us alone, remember? That's what I find interesting. This book is now getting to more of the spiritual, philosophical side of things. And this is where it gets real meaty and enjoyable, because this is the part where I personally fell in love with the book. Because he cannot ravish, he can only woo. I just think that is the most beautiful thing written in this entire book. And this chapter finishes up with him talking about more on how God allows himself to communicate with us, on how he sets it up to where we have to seek him out. We have to want it. We can't just take it. He can't just take us. We have to cultivate that relationship. We have to come to him, and then he's there with open arms welcoming us in. And that's what they don't want. They don't want us to experience that love. Okay? So the letters continue on, getting a little bit more darker. It literally, as these chapters go on, it seems that he's not going to make it. You literally, like, when I first read this book, I was seriously like, really, C.S. Lewis? Dude, you wrote the Chronicles of Narnia, where good always triumphed. Like, what are you doing to us here? You're going to Stephen King. Like, really, these next few chapters, you really feel that it's hopeless. I mean, they talk about keep his mind off the plain antithesis between true and false. It was a phase. I've been all through that. That is what they want. They don't want us to look at things concretely like, that was wrong. I shouldn't have done that. I need to apologize. Or, I am heading on the right path. They want us, it's just a phase. I'm just going through a phase. Because if you say I'm just going through a phase, you're not taking responsibility for your choices. That's what they want. They don't want us to take responsibility. They don't want us to choose left or right. They just want us to coast. And this chapter really, really discusses that apathy. Don't directly attack their faith. Chip away at it. Don't let him focus on right or wrong, true or false. Have them focus on things that are vague. Keep him confused inside his little box. These last few chapters, I'm letting y'all know, they're downers. They're really downers. Like, you really get mad at the human, the patient. Like, I remember when I was reading, we'll be soon wrapping up this book. What I find interesting is chapters 10 and 11. It's like, oh my gosh, what's going on? As it continues on, he's like, you're doing great. You're tempting this mortal. He's ours. You are going to win him over. Indeed, the safest road to hell is the gradual one, the gentle slope, soft underfoot, without sudden turnings, without milestones, without signposts. So, Again, they want us confused. They want us isolated. Because if you surround yourself with people who will tell you, hey, you're doing wrong, this is what you need to do to fix it, that's a signpost. Wrong way. Turn around. This chapter really discusses just these last few chapters. He wants the patient, which means the person that's being tempted, to be surrounded by people who are not going to tell him, you're doing it wrong. You need to fix it. He is surrounding him with people who, it's okay, it's just a phase. Or here, look at this pretty new shiny thing. Or look at that pretty new shiny thing. Don't open the box, it's scary kind of people. And what I find interesting, they focus on little sins in this. And he's like, don't focus on the little stuff. Don't focus on anything in particular. Keep him confused. Keep him complacent. These last few letters, it's interesting. I'm not going to tell you, but we're wrapping up the book now. We'll be done here shortly. The ending, you'll enjoy because it's like, what? It's one of those, no spoilers. I'm not going to tell you anything. Because, I'm not going to tell you because I don't want to ruin it. I want y'all to read it. But it's interesting that they keep trying to confuse this person. They don't want him focusing. They want him confused. They want him constantly distracted. They are, they just want us going from one thing to the next without really committing anything. These letters continue on about how the keep them isolated. It's seriously same thing over and over again. Feed them things that keep them isolated with their own sense of superiority, so people don't reach a sort of community with each other, but have them so interwoven with each other that they can't tell who is who, while hating each other, while not trusting each other, while focusing on the petty grievances. It's like they want us they want us, I can only think to describe it as like inside a washing machine. You know, you load your washing machine, you put the clothes in, things like that, and you spin it so everything is jumbled up and tangled together, yet separate. That's their end goal here. And Screwtape continuously tells his cousin, or his nephew, I apologize, it's like they're continuously telling Wormwood, you're missing the point. This is not what you need to focus on. You don't need to focus on anything. Just, same thing over and over and over again. Towards the end of the book, again, I am not going to tell you the ending, but I will tell you that the beauty of this book that C.S. Lewis, I think, masters is the psychological suspense, the emotional attachment you get to this patient, which you never get a letter from them. You never hear anything about the person. All you know is it's a man, a relatively young man during World War II. That is all you've given, yet C.S. Lewis is giving you such a way to look at this person that you get an emotional attachment to them. You don't want them to fall. You are like me, by the 5th or 6th chapter, I'm yelling at this person, quit listening to that. You need to focus on this. Come on, man, give me a break. You're gonna root for the person in this book. It's wonderful. The ending is very colorful. It's very much of a fanfare kind of ending that you don't expect. I love it. And then the last part of the book is called Screwtape Proposes a Toast. It's interesting. This is one of the last books he wrote. There's 2 prefaces to this book, by the way. There's one at the beginning, and then there's the one that he wrote to Screwtape Proposes a Toast, which I find interesting. And because it's like, as you're reading this book, it's kind of like, other than just this simple satisfaction of causing, pain and despair and loneliness and separation and feeding the fires of like ignorance, hatred, and all that, why would they want to tempt us so bad other than just to get back at God? And what I find interesting is that in the end of the book, I will read some of the Screwtape Proposes a Toast just because I find it interesting. I'm not going to read verbatim, but he actually sets a scene, because in the letters you don't get any scenes really set where you get a mental image. It's really relied on the tone of conversation and the tone that he writes in that kind of gives you an idea of what the physical scene is. But in this, he starts right out. The scene is in hell at the annual dinner of the Tempters Training College for Young Devils. The principal, Dr. Slubgob, has just proposed the health of the guests. Screwtape, who's the guest of honor, is now making his toast. And this toast is really interesting. So it's treated as your typical celebratory dinner party. I will well remember with what trepidation I waited my own first appointment. This is Screwtape. So he's saying, congratulations, you graduated College of Temptation, and you're going to go off and you're going to receive your first assignment. I hope and believe that each of you has same uneasiness tonight. Your career's before you. Hell expects and demands that it should be, as mine was, one of unbroken success. If it is not, you know what awaits you. And he talks a little bit more about what, and I'm not going to tell you because I want you to read this book and discover for yourself what awaits them should they fail. And let's just say it's not pleasant. It is not pleasant. Nothing in hell is pleasant, according to this book. Don't want to offend anybody. But as it goes on, it's interesting is how they talk about the people who have been won over to their side. It's very weird, and it's very interesting. I'll just say this. They combine us to wine, to beverages. That's all I'm going to say. You need to read Screwtape Proposes a Toast. If you read nothing else in this book, read this part. Because the way they talk about us, they don't care. They look at us as not even food. They combine us. They want us so confused and wrapped up in each other that we can't even tell each other apart. That's their end goal, really. Religious toleration was almost everywhere on the increase in that movement that had originally been many elements which were in our favor. Atheism, anti-clericalism, much envy, and thirst for revenge. Even some attempts to revive paganism. No offense. Pagans, this is just from a book. This is just a book. Were mixed in it. So they wanted us jumbled up and hating each other. That's what brings them happiness and glee and their hunger. So the fine flower of unholiness can only grow in the close neighborhood of the holy. Nowhere do we tempt so successfully as on the very steps of the altar, is the last line of this book. So remember, my loved ones, my wonderful inklings, my sweet darlings, don't fall into the trap of being petty. Don't fall in the trap of staying inside the box. You want to open your mind to experience this world for the wonders that it truly beholds. Sorry about my computer. That concludes the chapters on Screwtape letters. I hope you enjoyed them, and I'm going to introduce our next book that I'm going to cover. It's called The Four Loves by C.S. Lewis. And I chose this book because I've heard of it, but I have never actually read. It's another book that was very high received. I'm just kind of scanning a little bit. C.S. Lewis categorizes and describes all the natural loves: affection, binding, parents and children, neighbors who have nothing in common, humans and pets. It is love owed rather than earned, and it grows out of familiarity. So this book is about love, which I think will be a nice way to cleanse the palate after the Screwtape letters. Because that book, my darlings, my loves, my little inklings, I need a breather from that book because I had to read it again to discuss it with you, and it really brought back a lot of intense feelings. So I think The Four Loves, which is my next episode, which I will download on Mondays, is, I think, going to be a pleasant change from this beautiful dark work of art. Please go to your local library and get the Screwtape letters, or you can find it on Amazon. You can find it at Barnes & Noble. That's actually where I got this one, I think. Where'd I get this one? Yep, Barnes & Noble. So please, 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 my darlings, please get this book and read it and let me know what you think of it. Please start an open discussion in my comment section. Just please remember to be respectful, because this is a safe place where we can discuss any kind of literature that we would like. And after I do The Four Loves, if there's a C.S. Lewis work that you would like me to cover, please, 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 please submit it in the comments. Okay? Thank you, my loves, for joining me today. And remember, keep your mind out of that box. All right, my inklings, and keep reading. See you next Monday. Bye-bye.